Hello, this is Mish, and welcome to my WestWorld Theories video. So I normally do a weekly review of WestWorld, but there's just so much to talk about, I thought I'd do another video. So this one is more my theories. Now there's many things flying around the internet, many theories about many components of this TV show. But what I'm concentrating on here is more the situation that the world is in. Is it a physical world? Is it a digital world? Is it even on Earth? Or where is it situated in Earth? So that's what my theory is around with this video. So for me, I've got three theories at the moment. But one of them I'm leaning towards is more likely than the others. But let's just go over them and I'll tell you my, reasons for and against each one. Okay, so let's start off with the most simplest, and if you don't look into the show too much, you probably think that WestWorld is just situated in North America and it's just in the middle of the desert. For me, that is the most unlikely. So the reasons why I'm saying that, okay, so when we've 3 episodes in, this could all change, but at the moment, the reasons why and the reasons against. So first one, you haven't seen any stars. Now that's nothing major, but I'm just adding them up, just little things here. One thing would be the size of the world. You can see with the panning shots, there's the area that they're in is humongous. What is stopping people leaving? What is stopping people entering? If someone wants to sneak into this world, what stops them? There'd have to be a physical boundary, or some boundary which stops people leaving, stops robots leaving, and stops people entering. And the size of the world that we've seen, I don't think that's feasible. I don't think you could get something which is going to surround that massive expanse and control people coming and going. Not without a small army. And I don't think they have that many resources. So that's another reason. Another one would be you're not seeing any aeroplanes flying around. So if this was in central North America region, there's a lot of air traffic, and you would see at some point planes or helicopters or something. And for me, whilst we haven't seen that, that could just be a non-point at all. But on one side, you could say, well, if you're trying to simulate WestWorld, a historic point in time, and then you've got jets flying overhead, it might take you out of that immersion of the world you're in. So that's another little reason there. Another one would be the isolation. I know there's, North America is a humongous place, but could they get that much land? Could someone afford that much land? I mean, this time frame, the time that this TV show exists in is obviously in the future, but how far? I don't think things are going to change that point to the point where you can buy that much land in the middle of North America at a price that's feasible for any company. I mean, it's humongous. You can see there's mountains in the background. It just goes on and on and on. Another point around isolation would be communication. So we haven't seen anyone with cell phones. We haven't seen anything radio related, television, internet. The only thing we've seen is a comms room where people can communicate with the outside world. There didn't seem to be much delay with the comms, so so that would suggest that it's not that far away, because even if comms across the world, it can be delayed sometimes. But so for me, there's that isolation, and they would want to, make sure that was secure as well, because if someone came in and brought a cell phone, I guess that's a security breach, because they could record something someone's doing and upload it to whatever the internet state is in the future. So that's also another thing. So how are they stopping people bringing phones in? Do people still use phones in the future like we do now? But once again, another reason why. How would you stop that situation? Another thing as well, if you look at the screenshot I'm putting up here, you can see in the view that there is a lake or an ocean. And once again, same thing. Massive expanse. How are you going to stop people coming in off that lake, off that ocean? Another thing would be weather. we haven't seen any weather variation. Granted, we've probably only been in this the time frame we've been in the show would be maybe a week, maybe five to 7 days. But the weather's been consistent, and that's not an outstanding point, but it's just another thing to think of. One thing which would lead me to say, I guess a point of this could be the real world. Against all those points, one thing is, if you look at the screenshot I've got now, you can see that this is a point of view of them using a tablet. And this, if you look at the top, it says satellite. So the suggestion here that there's cameras all over the place. Once again, this for me is not feasible. You don't see the cameras. I don't think they're going to be that well hidden, because sometimes they're just in locations that are just not possible. So they could be saying that maybe satellite technology's gotten to the point where you can zoom in to the point where you can see someone's face so close up that you can see what they're talking about and hear them as well, because that's what we're getting from these cameras sometimes. But that camera shot there, it's a satellite. So maybe it could just be some trickery there that they're trying to suggest to the people using the cameras that there's satellites flying around, or maybe there is satellites flying around. Okay, on to my second option, a second theory around the situation they're in, that they're on another planet. Now, I'm not saying it could be Mars. I'm saying it could be something that we don't understand yet. Maybe we've gone so far in the future we've discovered a way. That train we see the characters come in on the second episode, maybe that's somehow traveling space and time. Maybe there's some technology there that they've gone to another place which is very similar to Earth. Now the reasons, positive and negative again, what do we know? So blocking the stars. That kind of makes a bit of sense, right? If it's on another planet that we don't understand, maybe the stars are not visible because of some atmospheric issue. So that kind of ties in a little bit. Stopping people leaving, well, that makes sense as well. Because if it's a world that's not inhabited by anyone apart from the WestWorld company, there's no one going to be coming, there's no one going to be going, because you won't be able to go anywhere else and there's no one going to come in. So once again, that makes sense. And it makes sense for the boundary as well, that people won't be crossing any boundaries. Don't worry about boundaries because the world is not inhabited apart from this area. Same for the planes, and same for the expanse as well. Maybe the technology is so good for space travel that they've managed to get this location, and because the world, if the travel is so easy, then the universe has opened up. Maybe they've managed to purchase a planet at a cheap price. Bargain basement planet, everything must go. Also, the isolation. That makes sense as well, because if you're on another planet, I assume your average user, the average patron, the average citizen isn't going to have technology that's going to be able to send signals across the universe or across the solar system or wherever it's located. So that kind of makes sense. And the comms make sense as well. If we've gone into the future, possibly our communications across great distances is better. So hence that comms room. So there's some stuff there which makes sense. But others, I guess the chances of finding a planet that has such an area that looks exactly like Central North America, and the same plants, the same gravity, looks like the similar weather system, it's pretty unlikely. Could they add that stuff in? Could they add all these plants in? Yeah, maybe. Maybe it was just a desert initially and they've put all these props in, but I don't know. It seems a bit far-fetched, that one. So that for me it's more likely that it's on another planet than Earth, but once again, I'm not sold on that theory at the moment. So on to my last one. This is the one I'm thinking is most likely, that it's all a simulation. So from the start to the end, it's all a digital world, a simulation. So especially an example of that would be when William wakes up at the start of episode 2, they're on a train, he's in a deep sleep and he wakes up, and the first thing that Logan said to him was, if they're all like that, I would give her a 2. The suggestion would be that they have woken up on that train and those people were not there to start with. So there's many things like that in this TV shows so far that to me suggest that this is a simulation. Another big thing would be, I guess you could probably tick off most of the things I've spoken about before. So blocking the stars, tick, that's easy enough, right? Possibly they didn't have the technology, or they couldn't be bothered to add stars into the digital world, however this world is it a hollow, kind of like a holodeck from sci-fi movies, or is it a Matrix plug-in type of thing? So maybe blocking the stars makes sense. Stopping people leaving and coming and going, that once again makes sense. If it's a digital world, you can control the boundaries without a problem. The size of the world is obviously limited by your resources with your computing power, but once again, it seems a lot more feasible. Aeroplanes, you're in control of everything. You're in control of the weather. You're in control of the isolation. Once again, there would be no isolation if you're in that world. It's something you can control. It's like saying, well, if you're in a computer game, I want to talk outside the computer game. Well, you wouldn't even know that you're in a computer game. So for me, a lot of these things make sense if it's a simulation. The only thing that doesn't really is the whole satellite thing. But once again, I think that when I'm saying that this is a simulation, I'm not only talking about the guests and the hosts. I'm talking about Anthony Hopkins. He's in a simulation. The character Bernard, he's in a simulation. The security team, they're all in a simulation. Everything is the simulation. So it would make sense that if people are living in a simulation, trying to live a normal life, mentally they're in this simulation, that you would want to give them a sense of you are in a normal environment, you are on Earth. Hence, the camera, which is doing unbelievable things from this magical satellite, it is a satellite. It's not a magical floating camera that doesn't exist. It's a satellite orbiting the Earth. So, other things which kind of point me to that. People have said it. There was one security guard that mentioned, he kind of joked and said, maybe that was in my backstory. So that was, whilst it was a joke, but you can kind of sometimes think, he might be joking, but he might also be, it might be suggesting that maybe that all these characters are also, they have a backstory, they've been added. Possibly they're not even real. I mean, you can go on and on with, it's the whole Inception simulation within simulations. A few other things as well that kind of make me lean this way towards that, towards this as a simulation. Probably for me, the real smoking gun was the scene where, so William and Logan enter the park. That starting scene for me is very leaning towards that point. That is the awakening in the simulation. Because once again, I said, so here Logan says about the hostess or the caterer that comes and takes the drink away. But the thing is, if they'd gone to sleep on that train to start with, they would have seen these people on it. So once again, that is a bit of an inkling for me there that they've woken up on that train fresh. They don't know where they've come from. They're just on the train. Next thing would be, you see them get their gear, pick their weapon, put the hat on, walk down a walkway, and get into it looks like a pub or a establishment for getting drinks, whatnot. And as they walk in, the door behind them, you see we have a lift. It goes up, and the same thing happens for his friend. It comes on, goes up again. So we're already in that situation. You've got some lift system going to this floor, which isn't, I guess that's obviously not far-fetched at all. But then all of a sudden, this room turns into a train. And then all of a sudden you look out, the camera pans out, and you see the train. It's a normal train. There's nothing else around. So that is not a realistic situation. If you think about it, they've stepped through from a hallway onto a train. That's nothing amazing. But then the train takes off. There's no back of the train. There's no join between the wall. And when the camera pans away, you're not seeing a building it's coming from. You're just seeing an ever stretching out train track. So for me, that is a big key that this is a simulation, because that is not a physical situation that can occur. Or are they trying to trick us with that? Because it was so subtle. But the whole thing was subtle because he got on the train, and then all of a sudden this train motion started as well. So things started moving around as if they all of a sudden someone flicked a switch, turned the train on, and off it goes. So that for me is the smoking gun. But there are some other things as well. The projectiles. So I'm talking about the weapons, the guns. Now, with the movie, if you've ever seen the movie from 1973, so they dismissed that their excuse for being able to, for a robot couldn't shoot a human because the gun had a sensor on it which would say that has a heat signature, therefore you can't shoot it. That's perfectly fine. We're talking about old school technology there, so that all kind of made sense. We're talking about robotics, mechanical stuff, so that kind of makes sense. But with this one, it doesn't. For me, it really doesn't, because the way I look at it is that anyone can pick up any of these weapons. They can shoot. You see people shooting tin cans or bottles, I think it was. You saw the gunslinger and Dolores trying to shoot a wooden structure. It was just wooden planks. And the bullet was hitting that and destroying that. It was it was a projectile. It was a realistic projectile. It hit its target, and the target took the projectile and it exploded. Obviously, it was just wood. So if that shoots another host, it does the same thing. So we're trying to say that if it points it at a human, the projectile does leave the weapon, but knows that it's a human. Therefore, it doesn't penetrate, or it doesn't explode, or it doesn't do anything to the human, but they can still feel the impact. For me, I guess you could argue that they've got technology on the bullets, but I think that's a bit far-fetched. I think it makes more sense. It's more sensible to me that it's coding. It's saying that there's a code in there somewhere which is saying bullets do nothing to humans. And I think you could argue that one either way, but for me, it's just another point that this is a simulation. And probably the final thing, my thought around the simulation, my simulation theory, let's call it, would be, you see Anthony Hopkins in the desert when he's trying to figure out a new storyline. They come across a snake, which is a scene from the movie, as well, the 1973 movie. But in the movie, the snake does attack somebody, and they say the snake was faulty. It's just a mechanical thing. It was just a fault. But with the TV show, we see Anthony Hopkins control it, and almost by like a Jedi force, like he moves his hands and he's controlling what the snake's doing. It makes sense when they're controlling the robots or the hosts. They say a phrase and they act a certain way. So they say, "Tell me the data logs," or something like that. So then they spew out the data logs, or they'd say, "Shut down," and they shut down. But for me, when he's doing that with the snake, he's not saying anything. He's not doing anything. It's almost like a mental thing. And that, once again, is kind of to the point where if it was a voice command, you can believe that. But if it's a hand gesture, yeah, maybe the hand gestures work. The same, maybe it's sign language. Maybe that's what the logic is there, that we're suggesting that the snake can see the sign language that Anthony Hopkins does to shut it down or make it turn around. But once again, for me, it was more as if he was mentally telling it to stop, spin around, and off it goes. And the other thing too, with this whole kind of control of the hosts, what if a guest turned around and said, "Shut down"? Would they be able to control the hosts? If the guest accidentally said a phrase which was data logs or something, would then the hosts spew out all the data logs the same way they do for the admins or the developers? So once again, it's the kind of nonsensical, unless it's in a computer game or a simulation type world. So yeah, that's my theory. Once again, real world, maybe. More likely for me, it's on another planet, but the most likely for me at the moment is a simulation. Okay, so I'll leave this video here. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts on WestWorld and what you think the situation is. Be fascinated to hear your thoughts. And also let me know your thoughts on this video. Please thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't obviously, and subscribe for future content from myself. As I said, I'm covering WestWorld every week, and also The Strain, but that's going to finish up soon, so I'll pick another show in the future. So this is Mesh, and thanks for listening, and I hope to see you again soon.